It's a month full of literal heavy hitters as we count down the top 10 hottest board games as of July 2019. Hey there! I'm Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise and BoardGameGeek, and welcome to this month's Top 10 Hottest Games, which is based on the titles that are generating the most traffic and discussion on the BoardGameGeek website over the past 30 days. Well, these games are tracked on the site's hottest games list, and the higher and longer a game remains on that list throughout the course of the month, the higher it ranks on our top 10. 130 different games appeared on our hotness list over the past 30 days, including the game that rocketed up to number 10 after not even appearing on the list at all last month. So let's start there. Making its debut on the countdown at number 10 is the hefty game Time of Legends Joan of Arc, published by Mythic Games. Time of Legends Joan of Arc is set during the 100 Years' War, when kings struggled for France's throne and chivalry was often spoken of, but rarely practiced. This story-driven game is a combination of card play, resource management, and positional tactical board maneuvers. In other words, lots of neat little minis and places to put them. The game's scenarios range from small skirmishes featuring a few characters and simplified role-playing elements, to full-blown battles with dozens of knights and archers and men-at-arms. The game also includes a battle mode, allowing battles between custom-made armies. Joan of Arc was part of a massive Kickstarter, and as is not uncommon with game designs with a large scope like this, there were some rules in the initial release that required clarification and elaboration. Now, if you were a backer of Joan of Arc, I highly recommend reading and bookmarking the official Joan of Arc FAQ presented and maintained by Az Drummond of Mythic Games. In this video's description, I'll add a link to this FAQ, which includes essential answers and errata to the game's initial release. Down 4 spots to finish the month at number 9 is another substantial game, Batman Gotham City Chronicles by Monolith. Batman Gotham City Chronicles is a mission-based miniatures board game where 2 to 4 players control the Dark Knight and his allies in their never-ending battle against crime through an asymmetrical and open game system. Each game involves an action-packed fight where 2 sides are going to face off. Now, one of the players assumes the role of the villain and controls the most notorious criminals in Gotham City. The remaining players take control of all the heroes who must work together as a team to foil the villainous plots. Now, each side takes turns putting their strategies against each other in order to achieve their own personal objectives. The Kickstarter campaign for the second season of Batman Gotham City Chronicles just finished on June 18th, where over 9,700 backers joined in for another printing of the game's first edition, plus all new content that will be included as part of Season 2. That Kickstarter is scheduled to ship to backers next spring, but in the meantime, Monolith has commented that the game may also become available through their website in the future. After hovering around the top 10 for quite a while, Medora Unintentional Malum Act 1 climbs 6 spots to finally join the countdown at number 8. Medora, by Succubus Publishing, is a 1 to 4 player cooperative choose-your-own-adventure style miniatures board game with an ultra-modern fantasy setting in which players will experience an in-depth, fully narrative-driven adventure that contains over 90 hours of content. Throughout the narrative, players will be forced to make decisions that change the course of the overall storyline and its outcome. Medora continues this month's trend of sizable, just huge miniature-filled Kickstarters appearing on our countdown. In fact, a Kickstarter for Medora's second printing is currently running now through July 24th. With all of these big Kickstarters, I'm wondering, will one of these 3 sprawling cardboard colossuses become the next Gloom Haven, which has dominated our top 10 for over a year? Well, time will tell. But for now, let's continue on to the game in the 7th spot this month. Slipping down 1 spot to number 7 is Terraforming Mars, published by Stronghold Games. In Terraforming Mars, players run colossal corporations, all competing to transform the Martian landscape into a new world that's capable of providing humanity with a new planet on which to finally finish your novel about a dashing young board game YouTuber whose knowledge of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle accessories saves the Origins game fair from alien invasion. It makes sense when you read it in context. And if this big, thinky Terraforming Mars just isn't your style, then take a look at Tiny Forming Mars, which appeared on the hotness list at number 129 this month. Tiny Forming Mars is a 1 to 2 player game set in the distant future where mankind has mastered the technologies needed to turn our lifeless neighbor Mars into a thriving destination for humanity. But in Tiny Forming Mars, all of this action takes place on just 9 different little cards. This game is currently being web published by its designer Michael Bevilacqua and is also available on Tabletop Simulator. Stepping up 2 spots to end the month at number 6 is Root by Leader Games. Root is an area acquisition adventure in which adversaries arrange an array of animal armies in animosity against an arrogant enemy, Marquita Cat, who aims to amass all the agricultural acreage across the area. As an after effect, the aforementioned animal armies amass to reacquire them at all. Look, I admit it, I'm sorry I stole your lunch out of the writer's break room. Are we cool now? Which faction do you like to play in Root? And if you're looking for a faction with an edge, well, bust out this spreadsheet created by BGG user Blurblast, who has been cataloging the player-submitted win-loss ratios of Root games since last March. This information is presented in a spreadsheet that illustrates the balance, the relationships, and strategy of the game's various factions, all side by side. I'll include a link to the spreadsheet in this video's description, just in case you'd like to study up and compare it to your own experiences. After 2 months in the number 1 spot, Lord of the Rings Journeys in Middle-earth slips 4 spaces to end at number 5. Journeys in Middle-earth by Fantasy Flight Games is a fully cooperative, app-supported experience in which 1 to 5 players explore the vast and dynamic landscape of Middle-earth, using their skills to survive the challenges that they encounter along their quests. As the heroes explore the wilderness and battle the dark forces arrayed against them, the game's companion app manages the construction of the landscape, the surprises it contains, and the enemies that the players will encounter. Players will then battle these villainous foes, make courageous choices, and strike a blow against the evil that threatens the land. An evil as terrible as when a dog licks your face but your mouth is open and their tongue touches your own. Alright, so I take it we're not cool yet then. No. Warping up the chart 18 spots to land at number 4 this month is Star Wars Outer Rim by Fantasy Flight Games. In Outer Rim, you take on the role of an underworld denizen, setting out to make your mark on the galaxy and gain the respect of your peers by completing jobs and correctly pronouncing denizen. You'll travel the Outer Rim, hire legendary characters to join your crew, and become the most famous, or infamous, outlaw in the galaxy. But it's not going to be easy, because the warring factions of the galaxy roam the Outer Rim, hunting down the scum that have proven to be a thorn in their side, as well as other scoundrels out there looking to make their mark on the galaxy, who see you as the perfect target to bring down to bolster their own reputation. Do you have what it takes to survive in the Outer Rim and become a living legend? Or, failing that, set up a modest dental practice on Hosnian Prime? Migrating down the list 1 spot to roost at number 3 this month is Wingspan by Stonemaier Games. Wingspan is a competitive, medium-weight, card-driven, engine-building game in which players are researchers, birdwatchers, ornithologists, and collectors, each seeking to discover and attract the best birds to their network of wildlife preserves. Wingspan has been hovering in the top 3 for the past 6 months, so to help mix things up a little bit, it's time for another installment of the segment I like to call, For the Sake of Chaz's Sanity, let's take a look at a random game that he hasn't already talked about several times. Brought to you by nothing in particular, because I can't come up with a joke for everything. If you enjoy both building ancient monuments and being surprisingly stressed out about it while you do it, then Imhotep may be the game for you. Now, personally, I enjoy Imhotep a lot, because while the players are given several simple options to do on their turn, deciding which one to do and when to do it can be just sweetly agonizing. So that's why I'm excited for the upcoming standalone 2-player game Imhotep The Duel, which is also set in the Imhotep universe. Wouldn't the Imhotep universe just be our universe, just set back in ancient Egypt? Because it's the same universe. It's the same planet even. In this game, players must cleverly place tiles so they can unload the most valuable cargo from 6 boats that align the edges of the board. But while this is happening, players will also be building several monuments in order to gain as many victory points as possible. I played Imhotep, the Duel, at BGG Spring, but it was the German version, so we had to make our best guess at some of the rules that weren't fully translated. That's why I am looking forward to trying it again when the English version becomes available this summer. Grinding its way back up the list a notch to spot number 2 is Gloom Haven by Cephalofair Games. Gloom Haven is a game with a persistent and changing world that is ideally played over many game sessions. After each scenario, players make decisions on what to do, which determines how their story continues, resulting in many different outcomes their adventures could take. Playing through a scenario is a cooperative affair where players will fight against automated monsters using an innovative card system to determine the order of play and what a player does on their turn. As I mentioned earlier in this episode, Gloom Haven has held the #1 spot on the top 10 more often than not for the past 2 years, and it's no doubt that the game's size, its scope, and its components have at least been a contributing factor to this. Which brings us to this episode's burning question. Do you think that games that are heavy in content and components like Gloom Haven, Joan of Arc, Batman Gotham City's Chronicles, and Medora gain an unfair advantage on the hotness list due to the amount of questions and rules clarifications that they require? And should views that these games receive from people looking for unanswered questions carry the same weight as traffic that comes from people who, say, are creating supplemental materials or discussing game strategies? In short, should there be a traffic context bias when the hotness rankings are determined? It's probably not going to happen, but I would be curious to know what your thoughts are, so be sure to share them in the comments below. And surging up 6 spaces to reclaim the top spot on the countdown for the first time since October 2017 is The Seventh Continent by Serious Pulp. In The Seventh Continent, a solo or cooperative choose-your-own-adventure exploration board game, players choose a character and begin their adventure either on their own or with a team of other explorers. They'll discover a new land through a variety of terrain and event cards while encountering danger and wonders and having to use every ounce of wit and cunning to survive. Serious Pulp recently announced that they will be selling extra production copies of The Seventh Continent through their website starting in mid-July. Well, these copies of the game, its expansions, and accessories will be available for sale while supplies last, with availability varying by country. For more information on this, I'll refer to the link that I'll include in this video's description in case this is something that you'd like to follow up on. And there you have it. There is your list of the top 10 most popular board games as of July 2019. And for more board game news, reviews, countdowns, and commentary, be sure to subscribe, turn on those notifications so you don't miss anything. Until next time, I've been Chaz Marler from Pair of Dice Paradise and BoardGameGeek. Take care. Talk to you again soon. Uh-oh.